I'm going to talk a little bit about CrewAI. Who knows what is CrewAI here? Oh, damn. All right. I remember when I would go to like this meetings and no one would like raise their hand. So now it's a good difference to have quite a few people knowing about it now. Well, I want to start with a number. 10,602,000. That's a big number. That's how many agents we executed last month alone. Kind of like 60 days ago. Now it's even more, but it's a quite impressive number. And the reason why I bring this number up is just because I think most people don't realize how real this already is. People like to compare AI with the internet, like as big of an impact. If you go back to the .com and the boom that we have back then, it was a little crazy for sure, but it was all about the promises, right? Like, hey, if you build a website now, you're gonna have something great. This is gonna be a breakthrough. And what you're seeing with AI right now is direct impact into the bottom line. You go read some of the updates from Walmart and other companies on their 10Qs, and they're already talking about how many millions they're saving because they are deploying AI in some way or another. And now some of them are already doing AI agents. So for me, it's quite impressive to see how different it is and how much impact this can have. So I assume everyone here knows what an AI agent is. But if you don't, I'm going to catch you up in 2 minutes. So you know GPT-4, Gemini, Sonen, all those different models and the chat applications out there. They're great at creating content. So you can say, hey, write me an email, or help me figure out my essay, or write something for me, a campaign, a marketing campaign, whatever it might be. As a matter of fact, they're so good at writing content that they almost have cognition. And what I mean by that is that they can make decisions. You can say like, hey, should I go right or should I go left? And the model will say, well, you should actually go right because of X, Y, and Z. So you can ask this model all those different questions, and it's going to be reasonable, and it's going to reasonably react to what you're trying to do. And the beautiful thing about this is that if you get this model to chat with itself or to chat with one another, guess what? An agent's born. You can step outside the room. Now the agent can talk with itself, it can reasonably take actions, it can decide what is the best way to go about it. So you have something that are autonomously trying to accomplish something for you, and that's just incredible. I think the thing that I like most about agents is the fact that they can react to all this information in real time. So let's say that they're trying to, for example, do lead qualification. If you're talking about a lead that is not necessarily your ICP, or if you're trying to do something in real time, these agents can basically understand the situation and feel like, if this is not a good customer, I'm not going to do too much research on it. Or no, this is actually a great match. I'm going to do a lot of research on this company. So this real-time reaction is something brand new, and beforehand, you would have to manually do it as engineers. You have to like have all these ifs and elses and switch cases, and that's how headaches are born to some extent. But I want to show you a quick example. This is what agents could do. Let's say that I would have a meeting with Tom from Zendesk, and the email is just his name at Zendesk. A couple agents now are doing research on Tom and Zendesk. So now I already know that Tom has a background at sales, marketing, leadership. I know that Zendesk was created in 2007, that they really doubled down on simplicity. Another agent already wrote a landing page. I could export this as a PDF. I could send this to Tom. This is explaining CrewAI to Tom specifically and frame it due to the things that it's important to Zendesk. So it's talking about Zendesk missions to simplify complexity and develop better customer relationships. So again, it might be not the most hard or complex example out there, but you can see how I could export this and email this to Tom right after a meeting. It's like, hey Tom, here it is. You have like quite a description on how you can use CrewAI and what are the benefits of using CrewAI specifically for Zendesk. So you can see some of this power between researching, summarizing, analyzing, and putting together these reports. Well, usually these agents start very simple, right? It's just an LLM in the middle, functioning as a brain. You give it a tools, you pass it a task, and then this LLM will choose when and how to use these tools in order to accomplish your task. But guess what? This things got very complex once that you're talking about a production environment. You now have to thinking about a caching layer, because you don't want your agents to using the same tools over and over and over again and killing your quotas on whatever services you have. You also want these agents to have some memory so they remember what they have done. Every time that you run them, you make sure that they don't need to do the same thing again. They already understand what is happening. And then you also have the ability to train them, teach them not only what to do, but how you want them to do. And even like guardrails so that they don't hallucinate and go crazy. And then you can also go multi-agents, where now you only have not only one agent, but two agents that can actually delegate work to each other. So one agent can be great on research, and you can actually use a specific model for that. You can say, hey, you know what? Research is a simple task. I'm going to use a smaller model. I'm going to use GPT-4o mini for that. But the other agent's going to write a report, but I want the report to be rock solid. That one's going to be GPT-4o. So you can have your agents using different LLMs and delegate questions and delegate work to each other in order to accomplish what we're trying to do. And now those different features that I mentioned now play an even bigger role, because the caching needs to be shared. The memory needs to be shared. If one agent learns something, all the agents on that crew should now learn about it. So this makes like extra complexity on how you execute and run these agents. And there's so many different ways that I can orchestrate them. Like, think about them as like a small team. You can have them behave sequentially, hierarchically, in a hybrid manner, or in parallel, or asynchronously. So many different options that you can hook up these agents to work together. And we have a new feature, by the way, disclaimer. I hope my engineering team is not here, but a new feature that we're going to be launching pretty soon. It's called flows. It's your ability to hook up crews with Python code and other crews. So you can get a data from an API, pass that into a group of agents, get the results, and push into another API. So there's a bunch of different things that you can do in there. All right, let's take a breath real quick. Things got very intense very quickly. So let me start by introducing myself. My name is super hard to say in Portuguese. So I go by João. That makes my sales calls easier. And I'm the CEO and founder of CrewAI. So nice to meet you all. We have a team that is now spread across the globe. We have people in Brazil, we have people in the US and Canada, in the UK and Australia, and we are hiring. So if you're looking for a job, maybe find one of us. And everything started, I started building this company back in Brazil. Funny enough, it was actually my anniversary. This is me and my wife celebrating our 6-year anniversary last October. And I had this idea of building CrewAI, but my wife hates when I code during vacation. And I was clearly having a lot of fun. But what I do is I would sneak in late at night, early in the morning, when she's sleeping, and I would code my way into building CrewAI. And you know what? Things starts to work out. We saw the thing boom. So many people started using this. This is not up to date. We are over 19,000 stars now. But with that success, a lot of problems came with that. Then we have like all these rabbit rolls of the agents that were not working properly, hallucinations, and people were complaining about that, tools errors that were not working, and things got a little crazy for a second. And I was like, you know what? I need to figure out how we handle this. The good thing is we got a community. So we start to have people go on GitHub, on Discord, on Reddit. Now we have a discourse community as well. So the community really came together and helped us to get our ducks in a row and figure out, make sure that the things are working. But I quickly realized that there was too much going on for me to do it alone. And I was like, you know, I need to turn this into a company if I want this to make a real thing. But how do you build a company in such a competitive market? I was like, you know what? We need agents. So we start building agents. We started with the marketing. I was like, well, the first thing that you need as a company is for people to know about you. So I'm going to do agents to help me with marketing. I put together 4 agents, a content creator, a social media analyst, a senior content writer, and a chief content officer. Make sure to review that everything was okay. What I would do is I would send these agents a very high-level rough idea. I could say something like, today I'm in SF, I'm having a great time speaking in one of the best conferences out there. I met amazing people, and this is great. That's it. Pretty high level. You wouldn't necessarily share that online. But then what these agents would do is they would search social media. What are other people talking about this conference? How many people were in SF? What is trending in the city? And what are people saying about this in LinkedIn? And then they would search the internet. Like, let's learn more about this conference. Who else is speaking on it? And then they would look at previous posts and experiences. It would dig into my resume. It would dig into my life experiences, things that I have posted in the past. And then it would come up with this amazing idea. It would say, well, this morning in San Francisco, I was thinking about when I had 7 years old. And how the world was full of possibilities. And seeing the people in the AI conference today remind me of that, and yada, yada, yada. And that worked. We got 10x more views by posting now, because before we wouldn't post as much. But with this, we could post 4 or 5 times a week. And it was like 5 minutes, because we just reviewed the thing before we published, make sure that it was actually something reasonable, reflect the truth, it's something that we wanted to share, and then we did it. And then we was like, well, now we have all these people, now we have like 33,000 companies in the waiting list. We're like, well, we need some help with sales. So I was like, let's do the next high-impact, low-risk automation, and that will be lead qualification. I want to qualify these people. So I created 3 agents for that. I say I want a lead expert analyst, I want an industry research specialist, and I want a lead strategic planner, whatever that is. And I put them together and I say, hey, I'm going to pipe my lead responses to this crew, and I want them to analyze those answers. I want them to compare that with my existing CRM data. What are like similar customers that I have, similar people that I have talked to, and then do a full research on the industry. And at the end of it, what I want is a complete analysis. I want to score for this lead. I want to score for the use case. I want to score for how complex this will be. I want a talking point, so if I jump into a call with them right now, I can basically say like, hey, I learned that you folks opened a new office in Australia last week. Amazing. Let's talk about how you can use agents there. So all this was being done for me. And for a brief second, I thought, you know what a great idea would be? Get these agents to schedule my meetings. Guess what? Not a good idea. Or at least block lunchtime. That's what I did wrong. But well, that was a lot of fun. We sit there and talking with 200 plus customers. That's how we build like all of our roadmap based off that. And this was super fun. But now let's talk about building a crew real time, because this is a conference, right? Let's get our hands dirty a little bit, see what that would look like on the technical side of things. There are a few different ways that you can build a crew on CrewAI. There is a low-code UI where you don't need to know how to code anything, but I'm going to show you the really like dirty, like let's get in the code, and you're going to see how simple it is even like that. I want to do a crew to analyze support data. You have all the support that is happening. People were like sending tickets. You have a support team is trying to help with those tickets. Customers are giving you feedback. You're trying to understand, like, what can I learn from this? Well, let's imagine that you have all this as a tabular data. And through all this tabular data, you have all this like nitpicks things, like these golden gems that are in there that you want to drill. Well, I want to have an analysis on this. I want to know who are those customers. I want to know who is helping them from our team. I want to know what are the issue types that they are having, what are the issues descriptions. I want to know what are they frustrated about. I want to know a bunch of information about this data, this blob of data that now I'm not doing anything with it. So we're going to do the following crew. We want to do 3 agents: a suggestion engine agent, a report generator agent, and a chart specialist, because I want these agents to plot some charts so that I can actually see visually what this data looks like. And they're going to do a few things. They're going to start by generating suggestions and generating tables, and they're going to do that in parallel. So one agent starts generating suggestions based on the tickets. Another agent starts generating tables on how to represent the data. Then I want another agent to start generating the charts after those 2 things are done. And then we wrap it up with a final agent that writes a full report. So we have the whole thing. Well, sorry about that. one thing that is pretty special is that one of these agents are going to be a coder. So the chart specialist will know how to code, write and execute Python code on the fly. So this will make it extra interesting because it's going to use libraries like matplotlib or Seaborn in order to actually write those charts and plot this report for us. So in the end, what we want to do is go over the series of data, generate the suggestions, organize the data in tabular insights, plot the charts to visualize it, and write a full final report. This is the data, or at least part of that. You can see that's a huge CSV. You have ticket ID, customer ID, descriptions, priorities, everything is in there. This is what our agent looks like. In CrewAI, if you haven't used yet, your agents are YAML files. That means that even if you're not that technical, you can see what is happening here. So it has a role, it has a goal, and it has a backstory. So this is our suggestion engine. The goal is to generate actionable suggestions, and the backstory is that it's specialized in analyze passing resolutions. Now let's look at the tasks. Well, this is an example of a task. It's also a YAML file, so it's pretty damn easy for you to understand what is happening here. Basically, you want to generate actionable suggestions for resolving in each classified support ticket. I want to know the issue type, the historical data, the customer feedback, everything in there. All right, so we know the agents, we know the tasks. Now, this is how you would put them together. You say like, hey, this is my agent, and you can see that agent number 1, the suggestion generator agent, has a tool. It has a CSV tool, so it can read and parse that CSV file. The reporting agent also has a tool. But most important, the chart generation agent, it can execute code, and it uses a different LLM. The other two agents are using GPT-4o Mini, but in order for generate code, I want this to be a little more powerful. So I said this one's going to be GPT-4o. And these are the tasks. The tasks are also super straightforward. They are basically loading the content of that YAML file. But I want to also call out your attention for the final lines in there, where for the final report, we're bringing the results from all the other tasks into this one. So the final report will get the results from the suggestions, from the tables, from the charts, and it's going to put together the final report for us. But then before we do this, how you test an agent, right? Like, how do you know? Is this working? Is this good? Well, guess what? You can. We have CrewAI test. It uses LLM as a judge, something that we have seen papers about, where you can actually have an LLM judge if your agents are doing bad or doing good. And the main reason why we can do that is if you go back into our tasks, you're going to notice that every task not only has a description, but it also has an expected output. So we can get the actual result and say how much this result actually matched what the expected output was. And using that, we can tell you how good this is or not. So let's run CrewAI test. CrewAI test is a command line tool, but you can also run on a UI if you're using our enterprise solution, but we can talk about that later. And you have a result. So here you can see, oh, those are my tasks. This is how well they behave. This is how long it took. You can see that we have like some 8s, some 7s, some 9s. It's all within there. I don't like this. I want to make it better. How do you do it? You can spend hours and hours kind of like trying to change our agents, changing our tasks. That's not fun. Let's do CrewAI train. That's your ability to actually train your agents. Imagine that you just hired them. You want to onboard them. You want to teach them how they should do the work that you want them to do. So you can run train, and the way that train works is pretty chill. So your agents are going to execute as usual, right? Each agent's going to do its task. But what's going to happen is, whenever it finishes a task, it's going to stop right there, and it's going to ask you for feedback. Like, hey, did I do it all right? Did you like it? Is that how you want me to get things done? And you can tell it, like, no, you forgot the sources. No, this is not the appropriated format. Actually, I want this to be funny. Like, you're not funny enough. So you can give all these feedbacks. These agents will pass that through a judge LLM, and they're going to then store that into a memory. And then they're going to remember that. That's going to become intertwined with your agents. So they behave like the same every time, so you have consistency. And that is key for deploying these things in production. Once that you have consistency, we can run again our tests. And you can see that now we have different results. If we compare both, you can see that we went from 8 to an almost 9, from 7 to almost 9. There is one that got a little down there. Test number 3 went from 9 to an 8.66. But we can probably do better than that. We could train it further if you want to. And the time decreased it very considerably, given like how much like we had to improve and how much more guidance we had to this agent. So now it's not only better, it's faster, and more important, it's consistent. It's going to behave like that every time that I run it. So this is great. And this is the report. So this is what our agents put together. You can see it starts with a comprehensive report. It gives us all the issues types. So a few API issues, a few logging issues, a few report generation issues. You can see the charts in there showing the issue distribution and the priority levels, so you have a very good understanding. You can see like what are the people that are actually doing this, what are like my support folks. So you can see that you have 5 support people that are helping out. And if you look at agent A001 in there, he gets a lot of tickets done, but look at the satisfaction rating. It's pretty low. Agent 005, the last bar in there, got as many tickets done as AA1, but it has a way higher satisfaction rating. So now I have this visual that before was very hard for me to do, and if I had to do it, I would have to spend hours kind of like trying to massage this data, get the thing that I want. Again, another cool example, now that it is ready, I could run this automatically every week and then understand how my support team is doing, where I should change things. And then they also bringing up the customer satisfaction. There's more data in there to be analyzed. And not only the customer satisfaction, but also a bunch of suggestions. Like, hey, for your API issues, this is the historical data. This has been the customer feedback, and this is what your agent should be doing now. The people that are actually working on your support team should be doing in order to help you get better results. So you get everything in there. Now, again, please, if there's any CrewAI engineers in there, cover your ears a little bit. We have a new feature that is coming in the next version, CrewAI Deploy. What that means, like, all right, we did this, now what? Now you can go in your CLI and run CrewAI Deploy, and that automatically becomes an API for you. It's an API, it's production ready. What I mean by that? What I mean is auto-scaling, SSL, bare token protected, and a private VPC, everything that you need in order to connect this to a front end or a back end. And about front end, you can actually export a front end right away. You can export a React component. You got a UI for free. That UI is generated by AI agents, by the way. So you can actually now get your that UI, and you can have an internal product. You can put in a Stripe checkout link at the front of it and have a product and try it around. There's so much that we can do. We could sell this and say like, hey, here's your supportanalysis2.com, like $50 a month, and you get some reports. So there's so much that you could do. It opened up so many doors. And we are seeing a huge trend on how many people are executing Crew now. Honestly, it's a little insane how much traction we are seeing. Now we are to a point at least 100,000 crews are executed every day. And every crew has at least 2 or 3 agents. Someone's going as high as like 21 agents trying to work together. So it is a little crazy. And we're seeing a huge distribution of use cases. A lot of operation automations, marketing, code development, research, education, support, so many things out there. But you might be wondering about the future, right? Like we talking a lot about like, we got a little technical. Let's do a review real quick. We talk about what are AI agents. So we covered that. We know the LLMs, we know the tools, we know how they work. Then we talked about how I came up with the idea and basically got myself in trouble to the point that I had to create a company, which I love, by the way. And then with creating this company, I told you how I use agents myself and how we are using agents ourselves to help scaling this company. And then we got our hands a little dirty. I can't do live coding in this setup, but you could see like how you could build one of those crews together and how you can get them to run, and using some of these features to make sure that you get them better. So what about the future? Well, as a large language model, I can't, no, I'm kidding. What happens is it's very clear that the genie is not getting back into the bottle, right? Like people are not gonna use less AI. Like, this is not happening. If anything, people are going to use more and more. So sometimes people are wondering, like, well, what that means for my company, what that means for my career, what that means for my team. I can tell you, we don't like to assume that, but the real thing is, we don't have as much control over that as we wish we had. But we do have a few levers. One of them is we can decide if we want to use these tools now or not. I would say whatever happens in the future, if like AI take the word and jobs get to replace it or whatnot, whoever is actually using these tools now are going to be better positioned. And that's something that you do have control. So I'd say whatever it is, CrewAI or not, you should be using AI tools out there. You should be trying them out. People are getting actual value on their business and on their personal lives by using it. I actually got a tweet yesterday of a 12-year-old boy that used CrewAI to build an automation analysis for invoices for his mother businesses. And I was like, damn, like I didn't know that would be the case when I started this company. So I would say, my suggestions for you would be an early adopter. Don't wait for other people's use cases. I hate when people come to me and say, like, hey, what are the use cases that I should be doing? I mean, dude, I can tell you the use cases that we see. I just told you about some. But you should be thinking about all the cases that would benefit you the most. I don't know your business. I can help for sure, but it's your responsibility to understand how you could be using tools like that. I would say start simple. We start with a simple marketing use case. Doesn't need 100% accuracy. Like, you can have someone review at the end, and that's great. And then you expand to low risk and high impact, making sure that you go for more complex use cases as you go. We're now working with like major companies out there. PwC, KPMG, Auricon, Carlyle, Starlink has been a lot of fun. Not only that, now IBM is offering services by using CrewAI, and that has been a very interesting experience. We are also seeing big partnerships with companies like Mongo. They're now also using Crew, and you're talking how to expand that with them. And funny enough, now people are hiring for Crew. Amazon and Cloudflare are listing CrewAI on their job requirements. So in case you folks know CrewAI are looking for a job, there you go, you have it. If you want to know more about CrewAI and technically about it and learn, we did a very good course with Andrew Yang. For full disclosure, after this course, Andrew actually became an angel investor himself, and we also recorded a new one that we're going to be launching in like a month or so. So if someone asks you, I didn't tell you about it, I don't think I could, whatever. And I would say you can check more on learn.crewai.com, and you can learn more about how to use it. I want to say thank you so much for you folks to have me. It was a great time. I'm going to be around for a few hours, so in case you want to chat, you can come in and find me. And we also have a few other of us around the room. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Joe. We have very little time to take one question, so I see a question up here. Where's the microphone, please? Where did the microphone go? Here, take mine.
Hi.
All right.
Sorry.
Thank you, Kathy. João, thank you very much for your talk. Very incredible to see how the company has grown for the past few months. And great to see a fellow Brazilian doing great, amazing stuff in this space. I have a question for you. I come from the open source side, and you have a lot of, like, on the open source side, how do you balance the open source side and the enterprise where you need to generate revenue for your company? Like, how do you balance both sides?
Yeah, I want to say, when I look about open source, and I tell this to all of our teams, is open source is probably our biggest asset together with the team right now. The open source is truly awesome, and has been like an unfair advantage as a business, because we get to hire from open source, we get to test things on open source, we get to get people to contribute to open source. So if anything, like, we want to invest in open source even further, because it has been so tremendously helpful and is such an unfair advantage that I just want to double down. I think the other thing as well is that it doesn't need to be such a clean cut. Like, it's not enterprise or open source. It's a spectrum. You can have free tier. You can have things that might be open source on different licenses. So I want to explore the full range and the spectrum there to make sure that we are giving back as much as we can while still making a business and, honestly, our investors happy.
Hey, do you have time for one more question? Sorry.
Yes. Go for it. He's already got the
Okay,
microphone.
so for the agents that you allow to write and evaluate code, like how are you validating that code and sandboxing it? Or I don't know if you can answer that question.
Sure.
But.
Yeah. So that code is run on our computer as sudo. No, I'm joking. Actually, that all runs on a container. It's on a Docker container, so it's everything completely isolated. It's not happening in there. And the beauty about these agents is their ability to self-heal, right? So many people in the enterprise are familiar with other, like older technology, like RPA. There's very brittle and breaks all the time. The good thing about agents is, like, let's say that they write a code, they try to execute it, and that doesn't work. What happens is that doesn't break your agents. That error is broadcast back to the agent, and the agent learned from it. Like, oh, I wrote my code right. I forgot a comma. I guess I'm a senior engineer now. So then it goes and fix it and execute the code again. So your agents have some leeway and like learning from their mistakes as they help and execute it, but everything happens on an isolated sandbox Docker container locally.